We're still in the midst of the All-Star / Olympic break, waiting for the Chicago Sky to return back to playing basketball in just a week from today. But on today's episode, we're going to continue our reviews, this time with Teresa Weatherspoon, and go over Chennedy Carter being injured at practice, Angel Reese getting a new shoe, all that and more right after this.
Welcome to Chicago Sky Central, and here's your host, Haize.
What's going on, Sky fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Sky Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Sky related. I'm the host here, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chicago Sky Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And so before we get into the review of Teresa Weatherspoon as a head coach, which I know everybody's waiting for, I want to talk about, the news catching up with the Chicago Sky. So Chicago Sky rookie Angel Reese has a release date for her collection with Reebok. This will be released on August 23rd. So we're only 15 days away from that being officially released for it. This is going to be a footwear collection that includes the Premier Road 4, which is a runner fit, and also the classic leather BB 4002s is what they go. Listen, you guys know what the shoes are. This collection is going to be titled under the Unapologetically Angel collection with that. And so while this is not Angel Reese having her own signature shoe like a A'ja Wilson and others, this is a kind of a first step to getting to that, right? So we all know that Angel Reese has one of the largest followings of any WNBA player, and that her Reese's Pieces, as she calls them, that they support her. And so getting Angel Reese out there to be the face of a miniature brand, of a collection within Reebok, this is just gonna, like I said, it's gonna be a first step to possibly her getting her own signature shoe, which I would not be surprised if happens within the next couple of years if Reebok does give Angel Reese her own signature shoe. So be on the lookout for that. Angel Reese just continues to get things to happen. And while basketball, the game of basketball, is the most important thing with this, I want to be clear here. That's what this channel is built off of. It's not about narratives. This is about the sport. It's also, you got to acknowledge how the game has grown. And while the WNBA is reaching a point of just the most popularity that you've ever seen from the WNBA, deals like this are going to be what helps get this league to a new place. And so you got to want to keep pushing those personalities, things like that. And we'll see what happens when it comes down to it. But it's all good. It's great to see the fact that we just keep growing and as a league, right? We keep growing as a league. And then, of course, you got players and that could be the face of things like Angel Reese. That becomes a big and important part of those things as well. So that's continue to grow. It's good to see when it comes down to Angel Reese. And but with that said, everything isn't all sunshine and rainbows. So, in practice, Chennedy Carter actually tweaked her ankle, and she ended up watching the rest of practice from the sideline. But she did tweet out that nothing's majorly wrong with the ankle. Everything is going to be back to normal. So, this with over a week until the next game, she's probably going to be fine. It's probably nothing to worry about, as far as in the long term with it. It just, it sucks. Anything that to slow her down, especially as we're incorporating new players and things like that. And Chennedy Carter is an important part of this, probably the most important part of just the Chicago Sky's offense when you look at it. Since in the 12 games since she became a starter, she's averaging 21.4 points per game and has had 2 games in scoring over 30 for the Chicago Sky team. And so, it's a big deal when you look at her. And she was asked if she thought that if this is kind of what she envisioned for herself in joining the Chicago Sky. And she said this, without a doubt, I knew before anybody knew that I was capable of what I was going to do this year. It was just a matter of me being patient enough to stay down till I came back up and waiting for an opportunity to present itself. Saying this is for adding to this. You have to know the story to understand why I say how special. I'm sorry, this part comes from Teresa Weatherspoon, saying you have to know the story to understand why I say how special Chennedy Carter's season is. For someone to feel excluded, so out, she uses the words all the time, not valued, to see her so happy, having fun with her teammates and neighbors, and that's what she brings between those 4 lines. It's unreal. And we know, for anybody who watches Chicago Sky basketball consistently, this started off at the beginning of the season. When Chennedy Carter came into games, the momentum of those games changed. The way that she attacked the basket, the way that she tried to get out there in transition, the way that she took over scoring at times, it was always there. And while, the coaching staff and the Sky went through, that initial period of trying to start Dana Evans before they finally made a change in that starting lineup, we knew that Chennedy Carter very early on was going to be an important part for the Sky Sky in their offense, even if she did end up staying off the bench. She ends up moving into the starting lineup. Her production has kicked up substantially since she became a starter on top of that. And just the sky's the limit for Chennedy Carter in the rest of the season. I often talk about the story of Diamond DeShields, right? She has one of the best story in sports, period. But the redemption arc of Chennedy Carter from going to a player who came in with a lot of promise her rookie year, her role changed after that, and then she started having the problems. And then, what happened with the Atlanta Dream and things like that, being out of the league to coming back now to have a coach that supports you, a fan base that supports you, and to be playing with kind of two of the more promising young players in the WNBA and being able to join that core, that's huge. But there is some business still left to be done. And this is something that I haven't even talked a whole lot about. And Teresa Weatherspoon was asked about Chennedy Carter and the potential of her being re-signed to the team. And she kind of sidestepped the question, basically saying that it's up to the front office. But she did say this, that I know what I like is what she added to that. And that Sky do have to make a decision on Chennedy Carter, and that could have been part of the reason, the motivation of maybe moving on from Marina Mabrey. Chennedy Carter's only under contract this season. Now, she's a restricted free agent next season, which does give the Chicago Sky a little bit of extra flexibility to keep her. But at the end of the day, I think that, Chennedy having long-term security with not only a coach and a franchise that loves her, that's going to be big for her and her confidence. She's only 25. She'll be 26 next season. And so to see that, right now she's a cap hit of only $76,000. And she's going to get considerably more than that if she stays with the Chicago Sky and really if she goes to any team. But that restricted free agent status, I think that locks her in. But I don't think Chennedy wants to go anywhere anyway. Let me know what you guys think, though. Are you at all concerned that with the growth of Chennedy Carter that maybe a team comes and offers her a lot of money even in restricted free agency? You feel pretty confident, as I do, that she's going to return to the Chicago Sky. Let me know all that down below. With that said, let's move off of this. So we have been doing grades for players, and we've been doing this for a while now. We went through all the players on the roster. Well, besides three, the two new players and E-Will, we didn't do an evaluation for those three because this is just not a large enough. There's no sample size for the new players. There's not a large sample size that I feel comfortable giving a grade for Elizabeth Williams on how her season went. But Teresa Weatherspoon is a big cog in what the Chicago Sky's rebuild and rebrand is. Having a head coach that is a former player, you hope, but it's not been all sunshine and rainbows. When you're looking at evaluating a coach, it has to come down to more than just a win-loss, especially when you're on a rebuilding team. While that is kind of the easy thing to look at, and I understand why if you want to just look at the win-loss record, it's really more than that when you look at it. The Chicago Sky in 10 or 14 right now. And if you actually look at it, their win pace is actually at a faster pace than what it was with the same amount of games last season, and that was a team that had Marina Mabrey, Pagliocca Copper, that was actually fighting and competing for a playoff spot, even though they had tons of injuries. Isabel Harrison went down early, things like that. But judging it in that framework, when you came into the season expecting this to be a rebuild year, even the record, you really can't knock too much. But then you get into the X's and O's part. And we know that the offensive game plan of the Chicago Sky for the large part has been very simplistic. Now, I hope that we're going to come out the break and be a lot better than what we were. But then at the same time, while you look at the offense that's been limited by the lack of three-point shooting, the lack of spacing, not having really good point guard or upper echelon point guard play to where it leaves your big sometimes not getting the ball in the paint when they need it, right? All those things, coaching comes down Teresa Weatherspoon didn't decide on the roster, but the play style does come down on the coach, and you do get a ding for the overall play of your team. But then at the same time, you also have to look at this fact. The Chicago Sky are the best rebounding team in the league. They also average the third most steals in the league. We're also a top 5 defense, being a rebuilding team because of the defensive pillars that we have there. And even when you look at the Chicago Sky offensively, we're 11th in a 12-team league, so the offensive part of it has not been good, averaging only 78 points per game. But that defense of the Chicago Sky is damn near a championship-level defense. We do average allowing 81 points per game, but I think that's going to come down a lot over the second half of the season. But also a big part of coaching is managing personalities and empowering your players. And that is something that Teresa Weatherspoon has excelled at this season. When you look at the confidence of Angel Reese, how she backs players, even like a Dana Evans, Chennedy Carter, right? Backing those players and believing in those players. She motivates those guys. And we saw those ladies, I should say, and we saw even in the preseason how Teresa Weatherspoon was such a galvanizing thing for the Chicago Sky team as far as just getting this team all on the same page, buying into something where a lot of players, Marina Mabry aside, even though I think she was bought in while she was here, part of the reason she left is because she said she wanted to wait and see what the Sky team was going to look like. But, that's outside of the control of just Teresa Weatherspoon. The Sky are a team that still has a lot of room for growth. Our offensive play calling, our offensive schemes, not running a lot of off-ball actions. While this is not a thing that a lot of, casual fans look at because they just look at, hey, did we win or did we lose? The reasons why we lost is something that it's my job to really be able to talk about at a high level here, having this job. And so looking at that, it's growth that's needed there. But then also have to factor in the fact that she's also a rookie head coach. She's never been a head coach at any level other than coming here to the Chicago Sky. Now, she's been a coach before, but never a head coach. And so what bit of leeway do I give for that? And so in fairness, right, and there have been some more knee-jerky Chicago Sky fans that have even said, well, maybe Teresa Weatherspoon isn't the coach for us. She's not this, she's not that, right? She's a rookie head coach, but you can see the growth and even how once Lindsey Allen and Chennedy Carter came into that starting lineup, you saw more off-ball things. Now, we don't nearly have the bench to really compete with some of the teams in the WNBA. We are a very top-heavy team that relies on a lot of our top-heavy players and our defense to get us into places. But then you look at some of the teams that the Chicago Sky have also beat this season. Some of the teams that came into the season expecting, hoping, wishing, wanting to be championship contending teams, that also plays a part into that. Wins over Dallas, right? Wins over the New York Liberty to start the season. That's how the Chicago Sky started their season, against championship caliber teams. We've beaten Dallas later in the season. We've beaten the Washington Mystics. We even beat the Las Vegas Aces to end it before we went into this break. This is a team that has so much promise. And that's what you want when you're in a rebuild. So looking at that, right? Looking at those aspects. Yes, the three-point shooting, the Chicago Sky are terrible at that. There's no way around that. You can't take away from that. Like I said, almost everything offensively for the Chicago Sky, we're towards the bottom of the league at. Worst in the league in 3 points made so far, per game. Bottom of the league in 3 points attempts per game. Bottom of the league towards more so the middle of the league as far as free throw attempts per game. Rebounds, we already talked about it. We're towards the top of the league. That's not even in any question. When you look at blocks as well, we're right towards the mid-bottom of the league as far as blocks. But this is a team that did not have high expectations coming into it by the media. They had high expectations internally. But then you also got to look at the camaraderie between the players, the coaching staff, everything. Teresa Weatherspoon came into this situation with a lot. She didn't inherit a team that was in the midst of trying to be a contender. It would have been different had she kept Kalia Copper here. That was initially what this was expected to be. Cop moves on. Teresa Weatherspoon is here to pick up the pieces and leads this rebuilding team. So I say all that to say this. Teresa Weatherspoon, to me, has done a really good job when you factor in everything in the totality of it. If you start breaking down specific aspects, the X's and O's offensively leaves a lot to be desired. The rotations at times with having, Camila Cardoso on the bench when she's actually playing well, that leaves a lot to be desired. But then overall, the thing that I look at the most with this team is just what she's done to really help this team be in the position that it's been in. So I got to give Teresa Weatherspoon a solid C+. To me, it's a solid C+. I think she's done a really good job. I think that the things that I do knock her, and I got to judge it fair, even though she is a rookie head coach, the thing that she's done as far as rotations, those are in her control. The X's and O's part, I want to see Teresa Weatherspoon maybe even get some more veteran coaches out there on the back end of that bench, maybe in the offseason. But this coaching staff also being having young assistants as well, like as far as their coaching career, they get a bit of a pass from that for me. So solid C+. And I think that this is going to be, that Teresa Weatherspoon is going to be the coach of the Chicago Sky for a long time. And I think we've done a really good job in that. Now, people have also asked me to rank or give a grade for Jeff Pagliocca. And so I have to, when you look at it, when he signed, Teresa Weatherspoon came in before we had the GM. But then how he came in and got right to work. They tried to get NECA. They tried to get Skylar here to pair with Pagliocca. Once that did not happen, he didn't hesitate. He had a conversation with Ka. They decided to move on. You get a pick in this draft that you initially did not have a pick in. You then trade other assets to get 2 picks in this draft. You walk away with Camila Cardoso and Angel Reese, and that already sets you off on the path to get an A, right? But then, how do you manage things within the season? Yes, the Sky have some serious big needs on this team that I get it. Everybody wants to see, like they mentioned, fair and things like that, which would bring some shooting. Make no mistake about it. It's not always as simple as that. But then you look at the fact of you had another player ask for a trade in Marina Mabry. And then you go out and you get another first-round pick to add to your own first-round pick. So you have another draft where you have 2 first-round picks in another deep draft. Jeff Pagliocca is cooking. Getting Chennedy Carter here, right? I understand in getting Diamond DeShields, even though it did not work out, but getting Chennedy Carter here, right? And then what she's ended up turning into. To me, Jeff Pagliocca has done a damn good job at being executive. And I will go on to say this. If Angel Reese does win Rookie of the Year, he should get Executive of the Year in the WNBA, in my point. Because the Liberty, even if with the wins, right? The Liberty, the Aces, these were already teams we knew were going to be championship contenders. No other GM to me has had to do enough to turn around a team that is still rebuilding, but you have excellent pillars here now. I think Jeff Pagliocca has done a damn good job. I want to wait to see how he addresses the shooting, the wing position, the point guard play this offseason, especially with 2 first-round picks. We need to see that, but I think he's done a damn good job, at least in my opinion. But you guys can let me know what you guys think on that down below. That's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following the show at Chicago Sky Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoSkyPod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything Chicago Sky related, but that's thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Sky. Love you guys. And I'll see you guys the next time we go to Skytown, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.